to Custom Home Builder Solutions, also known as CHS, a job costing, full accounting, and profit management software for the professional home builder. This will be a continuation in a series of videos about accounts receivable. Let me click the button here under Receivables for Accounts Receivable to open the menu for Accounts Receivable. And in this particular video, since we've already discussed how to create invoices, copy invoices, places you can create accounts receivable invoices from, we've discussed how to delete, edit, and copy or write off and write down invoices, or how for accounting we could do various statements based on what open invoices there are through a certain date. Also here in this big database, this is the database review, edit, delete. We talked about how to print some ledgers, etc. So anyway, we discussed all the creation, deletion, handling, editing, and we are now ready to talk about how to print invoices or statements of these accounts receivable records. The very first thing that I'm going to talk about is that you would want to set up whatever styles that you'd like to use for your invoices or for your statements, your monthly statements. And you can set up as many styles to use as you like. Notice here that when I get ready to print invoices, we'll come back to this date field. One of the things is to select which style. And I have 3 styles here. The general style and the statement style are defaults here, and you could just edit those to make those look like how you want, or you could set up some other styles that you'd like to be using for certain kinds of payer types. Like I was talking about in our video about using CHS for some property management and renters, we set up some payer types called renters. So maybe you're just printing rental invoices or rental statements, etc. And so you might want to have some different verbiage at the top and at the bottom of those invoices. So this button here for setup styles will actually open the same one as this button over here. And we have that general style setup that's a default and the statement that's a default. And I want to show you, before we get into taking a look at the rental invoices when we set up on our own, how to handle a few things that seem kind of weird. When you click on one of those styles, well, let me go back here for just a minute. You can click to add a new style, call it what you like. We called ours rental invoices. Type in the style name just so it's clear to you. And then you'd use this little Save Changes icon and it would be added to your list. After it's added to your list, you can click Setup or Edit this style. We're not going to add another style, we're just going to talk about ones we had. Let me click that button again, and I want to take a look at that general one because I want to give you a little tip while I'm here. First of all, you can set up a title, and I say font size should be 624 point or less. And notice it looks funny to me to look at because I'm really the size that I created this box expecting that it would just show up here without space. So let's click in this box, and what happens is we get a rich text editor. It is not something that I programmed. It's actually something that's supplied by the software that I use, and it gives various tools for doing what they call rich text so that you can bold things, give them font sizes. But I was experimenting and I clicked with, I think, heading 2 or heading 3, which caused some stuff to be behind the scenes. And if you see this little button here called Toggle Code, you can see what's actually here and what they call, the HTML type of tags and stuff. And I can see I did heading 3, which it supplied some font size of 6, and I'm just kind of not liking that. So you can just highlight over that, and I'm pressing my delete key on my keyboard because I want to get out of this code style now. I'm going to toggle it back so I'm not in it. It's not depressed anymore. And I am just going to call this invoice, and I might want to use that size of 24 point to make it a big thing, but you can see how it just sort of looks better and doesn't have that heading thing I decided I'd try to use. That's just a little tip about how you can toggle, see that code, because sometimes if you're just doing it in the front face without looking at the code, you can't get rid of some of those what they call tags, and I just wanted to show you that you could toggle that and do it. The bottom section is for a body of text that will actually print at the bottom of your invoices or statements. So you can click this button to edit the invoice body and type in whatever you like. If you have to click in that and then click in here to get all of your tools for rich text or whatever you'd like to do. You can experiment with that, and you can test to see if you're sort of happy with how that would look on a sample thing. This doesn't really have your invoice information, but you can see just a little bit, and you can especially send it to PDF so that you can really see how that looks to you. Whether you like the font you used for that title, CHS will be putting in the data of your invoice here, and this is just a preview of that main body text. Let's look at the one we did set up called rental invoices. And we did put a title of rental invoice in. We clicked this and we typed it in, and we decided, I don't know what font size we used, but let's just try 18 to make that a little bigger. And then we clicked this button to edit the body, and we clicked here, and we were able to type in what we liked. We could have made this in 2 lines if we wanted, by giving it a hard break here. Delete those spaces and save that. It actually, once you have the rich text box open, you need to save down here, and then CHS automatically saves the whole record for future use. And I could open to preview this, and then of course send it to PDF to look at it better. You can see I have 2 lines now at the end of what I decided to put on the rental invoice. I was just putting some verbiage about when it might be due and some late fee we might charge, just playing with it. Of course, you could do anything you want for your type of invoices. So like I said, you could set up as many styles as you like. We do have a statement style when we get over to statements, and I think I'll make that one just a little bit bigger, maybe 18 points, and etc. The same thing. Same thing we just talked about. But the statement, remember that the statement will default in, general will default in, because we do need to have something there in case you don't want to select styles. So I wanted to address that, how you can make as many styles as you like. So for invoices, which are just individual invoices that print 1 invoice per page, the first thing to fill in here, if you need to, is invoices with activity after. Statements are different. They're going to show, balances of statements, etc. But invoices are just invoices. And we went ahead. It's April 20th right now. We went ahead and actually behind the scenes and on one of our videos copied our renters' invoices, because they're about the same each month, and dated them May 1st, because we're getting ready to just mail those out or distribute those somehow. So I only want invoices, because I'm just going to do those rental invoices. I only want invoices, I think, really dated with activity after today, so I can just get the new rental invoices. I'm going to select my style for rental invoices, and then I'm going to select pay or types. By the way, here's a handy tip. If you click this little drop down once and your stuff falls off the bottom of your screen, click it twice and it will usually then come up here. So I'm going to select a type of renter, and I'm not going to narrow down which payors and which invoice numbers I want to print, but you can certainly do that. Select one invoice that you're printing. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. But let's print our invoices. And you'll notice that it says rental invoice, and that this has opened in what's called, it doesn't seem like these are on separate pages, and we lost one of our titles. It feels funny. That's because this opened as what's called an HTML web report, so that it can open quickly, and then you can get it to a nice PDF. We want it so that you have the tool to get it to your own PDF reader. And so almost always when you're doing invoices, you will be exporting this. One thing about HTML, it's really just a web page, and it doesn't honor page breaks or titles for each page. So it's something that opens quickly. You could just take a look at the data itself that's going to be brought in for those two invoices, which is our two renter invoices for May 1st. You can see that here. The date that we'll print up here is the date that you printed on the invoice, right underneath the title that you gave. But anyway, I'm ready to do those, so I will export them to PDF. And I'm going to pause here and explain something. Some of you may only get something to directly save the file, and you don't get this open with. You may be wondering on my videos how that happens here. But I'm in Firefox, and notice that if I click my browser's Firefox tools up here, I can click Options, and then I can click Applications. And let me cancel this for a second. And way down here, even though it's talking about up here, one of the applications, some of the applications are for your, what I'm looking for is the one called Portable Document Format PDF. That's for when I'm exporting, I think, is what that means. I'm not sure why they use the word portable. But over here, I selected, you have to click on it to get the drop down in Firefox, but I selected Preview in Firefox. If you find out that you just have Save File, or just use Adobe, it may not pause, it may send it somewhere else, but I say I want to preview. That's why I get the open with when it pops up, is because I set it to that. We have that in our user guide. We suggest that you do that, but that's the reason. So I'll click this again. I mean, it opened it in a tab, my tools for Firefox. So that's why if I do PDF, Firefox presents me with this window. This is outside of CHS's control, how Firefox will handle presenting a PDF to you. It may just save it, then you have to run around finding it. You know, if I did just this saved file, I'd have to give it where I want to save it, etc. But I'm not really wanting to do that. I'm just wanting to open it. So I'm opening it. And now you can see that we have one page for one invoice, and then it starts another page for the next invoice. Invoice numbers are over here. And I'm just printing invoices for activity, any invoice that had activity after April 20th, on or after April 20th. So I got my two rental invoices I might be wanting to print or mail out or somehow save an email, etc. And most of your reader tools probably have some email tools for you to be able to email things if you need to. In that case, you probably want to do one invoice at a time instead of like I have for two. I'm planning to print mine and mail mine. The other thing is, for mailing labels, if I go over to Payers List, where I set up my payers and I gave them some types, like I gave this one a type of renter, this one a type of renter, I could do a search for payer types of renter, search, and let's say I just had a whole bunch of renters or a whole bunch of some type of customer. I could now do labels, and I want to do mailing labels sorted by name. And it gives you clues about what kind of Avery labels these will fit on. You need to make sure your printer doesn't try to size it automatically. You can watch some more information about payers and printing labels with the help here. But I could print a sheet of these, or I could print, one thing I do, you might just decide you want a sheet of labels for Dan Green, and you just hold them in a folder. So I did that labels icon right by Dan Green, so I have a whole sheet of labels for this renter, a whole sheet of labels for that renter. So you could use that in conjunction with trying to print things that you'll be mailing out. The statements have what's called a statement cutoff date, which it defaults to today's date, and that's what's in here. And it is saying number of days for past activity. What that means is it's going to print statements for anything that's had something dated in the last 31 days, or actually any a statement for anybody that has an open accounts receivable balance also, even if that's 60 days old, it will be there. Now I've gone ahead and left the statement style. We set up a style for statement that was fairly simple. We edited and just said, call it a statement, and at the bottom say thank you for your business. So that's how this statement will do. You could, of course, just print a statement for payers, or you could print statements for payer. Let me click that twice so it'll pop up here higher. And I'll just do statements for renters here, of a payer type renters. And so you'll see a statement for Dan and Joan Green, who are renters, that has 2 invoices on it. And this one has 1 invoice on it, and this does not include the May 1st invoice that we did, because actually it's just taking today and any activity in the last so many days. Notice the difference that if I do May 1st in the past 31 days, and then I do print statements. Let's go ahead and get these to PDF so we can look at them better. Now statements will just go and get all the invoices for each person, either that are open or had activity in the last 31 days. So notice that these are really over 31 days old, but it's showing up here on the statement because it still has a balance due as a result of one of our videos that we did, and the April 1st one and the May 1st one. But no matter how old the invoice is, if it still has a balance due, it will show up on the statements. And then here we have another renter, and it'll even show, since this was in the past 31 days, it'll show this one, this invoice here, and show that it was paid, and then show our new invoice for May 1st. And once I send it to PDF, you can see how it got in 2 pages on my Adobe Acrobat reader. When you send it to PDF, it's going to open in whatever reader you've basically also told Firefox that you have, or finds as your default. So that's basically it, as much as I can think of, for how to print invoices and statements. If you have any questions, please feel free to call us. Thank you.